Hi, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the CT Outdoorsman. This is going to be episode number 2 in the summer series, and this is going to be a reflection, a story, basically a recap of my buck from 2018. So this is him right here. Alright, he's a nice tall tined 8-pointer. I scored him out. He's 123 6/8 inches. So he is my biggest buck to date, and I'm super happy with him. I did my own Euro mount with him, but I'll get into that a little later. But so today I'm going to tell you guys the story of this hunt, how it all unfolded, and kind of how that affects this season. And I apologize, you guys will probably hear some cars in the background. I do live right next to a busy highway, so I wanted to do this story outside rather than inside, but also the wind's kicking around, so this is kind of like the best area that I could find that's still outside, but kind of out of the wind, but you can probably still hear the wind too. So diving into the hunt. So it was mid-November, so it was November 17th. And it was an afternoon hunt. I believe I got in the stand right around 1 o'clock, and I had set up in this creek bottom that I had been hunting around all year. I knew that the does were bedding on the western side, the western end of this creek bottom, and that if any bucks were in the area, they were either going to be right in that bedding area with them, or they were going to come from the east and work their way into that bedding area checking for those. So I set up in this creek bottom about 1 o'clock, and I'm going to overlay some footage here from what I have of that hunt, and also close-ups of this of my buck here, so you guys can get a better look at him. But so I set up in this creek bottom right around 1 o'clock, and the funny thing about it is this was actually just after our first snowfall of the year, so we had probably about 1.5 inches, maybe 2 inches of snow on the ground. So a little unusual for the area here in Connecticut, and so I was feeling good. I was feeling like if something was going to happen, it was going to happen tonight. And so I'm in this creek bottom, and I was wrestling with myself on where exactly I wanted to hunt. There was this particular tree spot, same thing, that I had hunted throughout the season, and I had encounters with deer, and I knew the deer were either going to travel the route that I wanted to hunt, or they were going to travel the opposite side of this ridge. So I wrestled with myself a little bit about it. I kind of got to the area where I can see both spots from each tree, and so I wrestled with myself about it, and I finally decided, you know what, I'm going to head down, I'm going to head more north, deeper into the creek, and kind of set up basically right on the creek. And my thought process is that if any buck is going to come checking for does, he's going to cruise that northern ridge, and he's going to walk right by me, and I'm going to get shot. So I head down in there, and I'm looking around for a tree, one that gives me good concealment, and I'm off the trail a little bit, so if a buck does come by, he's not going to end up right under my tree where I'm not going to be able to get a shot. So I find a spot, and it's pretty thick in there. It's it's got a bunch of young growth, a bunch of vines, bittersweet vines, things like that. So I start climbing the tree, and when I get to the spot I want to, I only realize I'm about 11-12 feet off the ground, and that's a little lower than I normally like to sit. I normally like to sit anywhere between 15 and 20 feet, but it was just so thick in this area that 11-12 foot range gave me the best options for shooting windows. So I set up in this spot, and I've got everything set up. I've got my camera on my right side, I got my bow here on my left, and I'm looking south. Now, my thought process is that any deer that I'm going to see is either going to come from my right or my left, because behind me is straight up the top of this ridge, and it runs right into a fence. So I knew the deer weren't going to come from there. And then to my straight in front of me, so straight to my south, was the area that I just walked in. Now, I wasn't ruling out that the deer wouldn't come from there. It would just be very, very odd and very, very unlikely that a deer would come from there unless he circled around and came down right back at me. So I hadn't seen anything all sit. Nothing. Not even squirrels. The squirrels weren't even out and moving a whole lot. So right around probably 3 o'clock, I catch movement out of the corner of my eye off to my left, and so I look over there and I just see this body just moving through the trees, and I'm like, all right, here we go. And at first I thought it was a really big doe because I couldn't really see the antlers on his head or anything like that. So I was thinking, wow, that's a really big doe. And so I flipped the camera on and I start zooming in on him. And as he's getting closer, I realized two things. One, it's not a doe. I realized it's a buck. And I'm like, okay, this is a buck. Let's see if it's a good one. So I zoom in, and you guys see it in the footage here. When I finally get a good look at him, I'm like, oh yeah, that's a good one. And the second thing I realized was that he was walking right by the other tree I wanted to set up in. So he literally walked down the exact trail that, had I been sitting in that spot, I would have wanted him to walk down, because he would have been upwind of me, wouldn't have gotten my wind, and I would have had probably a 15-20 yard shot. But anyway, his head was down, he was moving, he was looking for does. He wasn't, locked in on one. I don't think he had a scent of one, but I think he had his nose to the ground, kind of looking, smelling, and so he's coming, but he's kind of traveling parallel to me. So if I'm here, he's kind of moving this way. He's not coming in my direction. So I take out my grunt tube and I hit him with a grunt, and he stops and he looks. And I've learned over the years that if you grunt at a buck too much, he'll lose interest. He'll be like, nah, I don't want to deal with that. That doesn't sound right. So I hit him with a grunt, and he's looking. And so he kind of does his little tail flick, puts his head down, kind of turns towards me and starts coming again. So I'm like, all right, so here he comes. So I've got my grunt tube around my neck. I grab my bow. Actually, I don't grab my bow yet, but I'm trying to get good footage of him as he's coming in. And I'm thinking he's going to kind of come in and come right in front of me here where my stand is. It's going to be perfect. So he comes in and he stops. And he's probably 70 yards at this point, and he turns parallel to me again and starts working past me. I'm like, oh boy. So I take my grunt tube and I hit the grunt again, and he stops and he looks. And again, I don't grunt at him again, but it was just the one grunt, and he's looking. And so he tail flicks again, turns his body towards me, and starts coming right at me. And as he's coming at me, I'm thinking, all right, this is gonna happen. So he's coming, but he starts going to my left. Now my camera's on my right, and what I hadn't realized was an issue was that my camera arm was so short in this particular tree setup that I couldn't get my camera arm around my body. And he's coming fast. Now, I could have extended it. I had the ability to extend it. It was just short in that particular situation because of where I was set up and everything like that. But I didn't have time. I was losing my mind a little bit with, I have the biggest buck I had ever had an opportunity at in front of me. And he's coming, so I'm just focused on making the shot. So I had my GoPro running on me. Unfortunately, I lost that footage. I don't know what happened. I must have deleted it at some point. but so I had that on, and I had this, and I had my normal camera on, and so he's coming, and eventually I lose him. I can't get my camera arm around me. I can't film him anymore. So at that point, I'm like, screw it. Screw it. I'll leave it on, so I have the audio, but I'm not gonna have anything. And watching the video back now, had I extended my camera arm, taken the whatever 30, 45 seconds it takes to extend that camera arm out, I probably would have had the shot on film. And but also playing back in my mind, I don't know if that sound would have disturbed the buck or would have made me lose my opportunity. I don't know. You know what? There's nothing I can do about it now. So I abandoned the camera, but I keep it recording, so I have the audio. And this buck starts working towards me, and where I'm set up about 10 yards off the creek. And so he's coming at me, and he stops at about 32 yards, and he's kind of quartering towards me, but he's facing right at me. And I remember I had my bow at this point, and I drew, and I was looking at him, and I had him aimed down in my sights, and I was thinking, I could put it right in between his two shoulders, right there. I could try to think, and then I was like, no, that's not the shot you want. Don't rush it. The deer's not on edge. The deer's fine. He's coming towards you, so just take your time. He'll give you a shot. So I let down, and the deer's kind of looking around, milling around, eating brush and things like that. So he comes a little bit more towards me, so he works into about, I want to say 20-ish yards. But again, this is a new spot that I'd never hunted before, so it was thick. So he turns broadside, and he's about 20 yards, and I can see I've got a little bit of a window. And he's moving through, and he gets right up to the creek. Now, I personally think he would have jumped the creek had the spot he walked up to not been a deep part in the creek. Or, excuse me, I shouldn't say he would have jumped over it. I think he would have just walked through it. But the spot he stopped at in the creek was deeper than all the rest. It was a deep pool. It was about 1.5 to 2 feet deep. And for whatever reason, that buck stopped right there. And in that particular spot, he was quartering away from me about 20 yards. So this was my opportunity. So I drew back, and I settled my pin, and I shot. And I didn't expect for him to, one, drop as much as he did, and two, to turn away from the shot. But so as I shot, and I think he was expecting it. Not expecting the shot, but I think he was on edge. He was on edge a lot more than I thought he was. So when I shot, he dropped about 1.5 feet, but he also turned away from me. So that quartering away shot turned into a much harsher of an angle. And I ended up hitting him right in the spine. And so he dropped right there. He dropped right there. And in the moment, I was thinking, oh my gosh, I have to put another arrow in this deer. So I grab another arrow, and I draw back on him. Now, he's not in the exact same spot. He moved off a little bit, but he's still about 20 yards away. And so I draw back, and I'm trying to get a good shot at him, and I've got a tiny window. This window was probably about this big, and I've got a window right on his chest, and I'm like, all right, I can maybe feed an arrow through here, get him in the lungs, and get him killed quick. But I had probably a twig about, half an inch in diameter, kind of right in that little window. And hindsight for me is I should have, looked at more options. I ultimately think I should have gotten down out of the tree and put another arrow into him. But that would have been the most ethical thing to do. But in that moment, my adrenaline was going. I was all these options. I was like, I don't want this deer to suffer. I want to get another arrow into him and let him pass quickly. So I settle my pin. I take the shot, or I take my second shot, and the arrow's tracking, hits that twig, and deflects down. Now, it deflects, so it misses its mark by probably 8 inches, and it buries what I think is right into his gut, right into his stomach, and it hits, and I mean, you can hear the sound in the footage, but it's just like a big thunk. And I'm thinking, oh boy, I hit him in the gut, I hit him in the intestines, I just made things worse. But he doesn't move after that. I hit him, he moves a little bit, and then he just kind of puts his head down, and he's done at that point. So the deer's dead. He's 20 yards away from where I shot him. He dropped right there, so he's 20 yards away from me. So I'm thinking, all right, who do I call? So first person I call is my dad, and I'm excited. Big buck down. I think I even say big effing buck down, but but yeah, so I call him, and
big buck down, baby. Big buck down. Big baby. Big fucking buck down. Just now. I'm down in the valley, a little farther across the stream
and he's all ready to come up and help me drag the deer. So I tell him I'll see him in a little bit. I call some other people. I called my then girlfriend at the time, and so she's all excited, and she was actually at home. I think she was just relaxing, and but so she said she's gonna come. So
all right, guys. Well, big buck down. It wasn't the most ideal shot. I spined him and dropped him there. Put a second arrow into him, and the second arrow wasn't the best arrow. So, but I'm gonna get down, put a third one in him, just to be sure. So, but it's my biggest buck ever. It's probably 100 some inches, but I don't care. And I lost my grandfather this fall, and he taught me everything I know about the outdoors and everything about hunting, and so that one's for him. So oh God, that's awesome.
So I gather all my stuff up. I get it down to the bottom of the tree, and I walk over to him, and so I'm looking at my arrows, and the second shot. So I take that arrow out because I don't want to drag the deer with that arrow in him, and it comes out, and I'm looking at it, and so I smell it, and it doesn't smell like guts. I'm like, that's interesting. I don't know what that is. And the second arrow was lodged in his spine. And so after we'd cleaned him out, we were looking at it. My broadhead had literally busted his spine in half. So he was not going anywhere. But so I was able to finally get my arrow out. My broadhead unfortunately got stuck in there. So my father and then girlfriend at the time show up. you know, we celebrate, hug, things like that. And so we drag them out, we take some pictures with them, we get them all cleaned up, and we get back to the house, and it's starting to get dark at this time. So, you know, we got some pretty cool pictures that I'll show you guys and everything. But so that's kind of the story of the hunt. Now, I did my own little European mount with them, and it was pretty simple. You know, I had a little bit of a learning curve too, but basically what I read was I didn't have the equipment to boil them, you know, and things like that, so I couldn't do it very quickly. And I wasn't in a rush, so what I actually did was I took the whole head of the deer, and I buried it in the ground. And I buried it for about 6 months. And I have to tell you that if you're not in a rush to get your deer mounted, burying it in the ground, I mean, there was, when I took them out of the ground, there was maybe, I don't know, a couple ounces of meat still on them, and I mean, it was almost nothing. Almost nothing. So, got them out of the ground, cleaned them up. Now, the one thing about it is the dirt does kind of add a bit of a yellowish tint to it, and the skull's greasy when you take it out. So, what I learned after, you know, trying a whole bunch of different things was that you gotta wash the skull. So, warm to hot water, soapy water, you know, scrub the skull down, try and get as much of that grease off of there as you can, and then let it dry. And then what I did was I did a lot of research, so I took 40 volume hydrogen peroxide, and I basically just painted it all over the skull. I made sure not to get it on the antlers, just because it would bleach the antlers, you don't want that to happen. And the finished product is basically that. So that was kind of that was a very, very brief tutorial process on what I did, but that was really it. So the only thing I have left to do now is to get kind of I'm gonna get a mounting platform for him, so that I can either hang him on a wall or set him on a table, and he's good to go. But so what does this whole experience mean for this upcoming season? So I have trail cameras going right now, and I don't have any monsters on camera. I've got one good buck. He's got a big body on him. Not a whole lot for rack size. I think he'll probably be smaller than this guy, but you never know. He looks pretty good. So I'm going to be focusing on hunting smart. You know, I'm out of college now, so I don't have. I'm not going to be strictly a weekend warrior, but I'm also working, so you know I'm going to have to juggle working and those other things too. So, but I've got some other obstacles to deal with now, but I'm excited. You know, I think this season could be a really good season if I hunt smart. I really want to focus on hunting the wind more, and overall hunting smarter, because I think over the last couple of years I haven't hunted the best way I can. You know, I think I've blown a lot of spots because, you know, I was too excited to go in there and possibly see a good buck than checking the wind and hunting the wind to make sure that I can hunt the spots that I can. So that's really it. So that's it, guys. Thanks so much for watching. If you guys aren't already, subscribe down below. Check me out on Instagram. It's at the CT Outdoorsman, and let me know what you guys want to see content-wise. You know, it has been a while since I posted a video. You know, it's hard, especially when I'm filming myself, you know, to go through and film and edit this stuff, but you know, I really want to get into it. a lot more. So let me know what you guys want to see, and I'll do my best to create that content for you. And you know, kind of a message that I've been dealing a lot with on, especially on my CT Outdoorsman page, is live your life the way you want to, you know. So this is my way of life. Live your life the way you want to, whether that's, you know, in the outdoors, with sports, with you know, drawing, painting, anything like that. Live your life the way you want to. And I'll see you guys here in the next video. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.